My Wellish besties, we made it to Friday. It's a fucking miracle. Thank God we're finally here. This week, she needed to end. It was not that long for me at least, but I found myself wishing it was Friday on Monday. So we're finally here. Thank God. I had a realization this week that was a touch intense. And so I feel like I have to confess it to you guys. On Tuesday, I woke up. It was a day like no other. And for whatever reason, it was a spiral day for me. And it wasn't a spiral day like an activated, anxious spiral day. While there was touches of that, it was more shutting down. It was more hopelessness. It was more feeling like my life is never going to amount to anything. And what am I to do? Because I have to figure something out in order to feel good about my life. And as I was, going through these feelings and like just really like having zero energy, feeling like a black hole on the face of the earth, I realized that my worth is so intensely tied to achievement. And this shows up in so many areas for me. So, number one, when I think about that I don't like my life and that I'm not proud of myself, for years at this point, my attention immediately goes directly to career. That I work a 9 to 5 job, I work in insurance. And so it makes me feel like I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing with my life, essentially. That I went to school for journalism, and so I should be doing something more creative, that my job title should be more impressive. And once my job title is more impressive, then I will have made it, then I will be impressive, then I can feel good about myself, and I'll be living the most in alignment with the dream version of me. But every time I think about applying for journalism jobs or I think about working in that field, I just don't want to. So then I turned to, maybe I would do freelance writing and do something on my own, and I just don't want to. And then I look at, my full time content creation vibe, and maybe I should be more of an influencer instead of just producing content as I do now, and that I should be reaching out to brands, and I just don't want to. And what it comes down to is, I like my job. I have a salary. I make commissions so I can make more if I wanted to. I enjoy the people that I work with. I really have a good boss. I have a great setup that I am hybrid. I work from home most of the week and get to go into the office twice a week to be like immersed into the world. I take the train to work, which is something I always wanted to do. And it's something that I can go to work and I can do my job that's very low maintenance and easy, not like very demanding. And then I can go home and I don't have to think about it anymore. But I feel like because of what I do and because it's not this like crazy successful CEO, built your own business, running this empire, that like I am a piece of shit. And that I need to work harder at building a better life for myself in order to be most in alignment with my dream self. But tying my achievement to worth, like I said, really correlates to everything that I feel in my friendships. I need to show up right and say the right things and do the right things in order to be a good friend. I feel in my relationships that I need to do the same thing, say the right things, do the right things, wear the right things, look the right way, play the right part, and then I will be accepted and loved. I feel like I have to make sure I'm doing all of the right things to not upset or disappoint my parents or my sister or whoever. Actually, not my sister. My sister's the only one I have a secure attachment style with, and I feel like, we could do whatever the fuck and we'll still be there and love each other unconditionally. So that's great. I'm so grateful to have one secure relationship in my life. But everybody else, I want to make sure that I'm performing correctly and that I'm achieving what they expect of me in order to be good enough in their life, in order to be perceived well, in order to be loved by them. I think this is obviously rooted in the good enough wound that if I do more, then I will finally be enough. And I think that's something that originally came from childhood and the dynamic that I grew up with. But I also think that it's reinforced in school. School was like a place that I felt like I could reach certain thresholds and meet certain criteria, and then my teachers would be like, "Oh my god, Sarah, she's incredible. She's such a good student. She works so hard. She asks good questions. She gets good grades." And it made me feel like it was such my thing to be a teacher's pet. Like if a teacher didn't like me, if a teacher didn't like me, I like really doubled down on it and like made sure they didn't like me because I was like so upset about the fact that they didn't like me. But like teachers loving me was like my fucking thing. And like I loved to like make sure that I was doing the things that like would win them over. And social media, obviously, it goes without saying, amplifies this idea that there's this like specific image that you can picture. I'm sure you can picture it right now of what living a good life is considered. You're picturing nice cars, you're picturing a nice home, you're picturing good clothes, you're picturing good vacations. I'm picturing like girls laying out in a clear lake surrounded by mountains that like they're like woo road trippy like living the best life, free spirit. And so it makes you feel like if your life doesn't look like that constantly, if you're not like going out and doing all of the things, that you're failing. But what's funny, as I know, and I know I'm beating a dead horse here, but it's funny just how like we think we know it, but subconsciously we're soaking up all of the wrong information and comparing ourselves to social media, where like even like the Kardashians have a normal repetitive life. They have access to more and they're like doing more and like going to like these big things and wearing these like really expensive nice clothes and driving these really nice cars. But like we're all living like this like repetitive normal life, if that makes sense to you. Like that it makes sense in my brain. Like that, yes, like they're not living a normal life. Like that's not what I'm trying to portray, but like that it's normal for them and like we're living a normal for us. And that we're only getting snapshots of everything consistently over time. It makes it feel like you're, looking at something else. But the truth is if you're putting intention into like doing things with your life and making sure that you're doing the things that you feel like doing, the more you do those things, like the more you'll feel like you've got a good life, that you have a full life. Self-improvement obviously also really reinforces this, which is why I feel like I gotta like, lay off self-improvement. Sometimes I'm obviously really inundated with it being something that's a part of my career that I do this, but like I feel like it always has this vibe to it that if you just do this, if you follow these 5 steps, if you do these things, you'll finally cross this threshold and you'll become X thing that you want to be. Like that's how they sell it to you. Like it's wellness culture selling you their program, their package, their book, their platform, getting you to follow them. Like it's not even monetary. Like that they're trying to sell you what their ideas are. And so they have to say like this thing is going to make you whatever, and it creates this idea in our mind subconsciously that if we do enough that will get to the place that we want to be. And all of it just creates this constant pressure to level up. Like you got to glow up. You got to be the best. You got to be the hottest. You've got to be the coolest. You've got to be the most rich. Like it's always like there's always like this next best thing that you're trying to achieve. And you want to be better than other people. And you want to be better than the last version of you. And you want to, even if like, I'm not saying it from like like it's bad to want to level up, but it's just that is always there. Like that's always there as like a thing to do. And it's never like just exist, dog. Like it's okay to just like be the way you are right now and not worry about it at all. Like that's not fun. They don't talk about that. It's this more is better kind of a vibe constantly. It's like the only acceptable identity now is being a project. Like you better be growing, you better be healing, you better be trying to be the best version of yourself all of the time instead of like just being allowed to like exist. Like that it's okay to just like, live a simple life and go to your job and hang out with your friends and come home and watch cozy shows in your cozy home and live the same routine because that routine makes you feel good and do the things that you like. And if that's like you're not allowed to do that. That's like when you look at those posts and they're like, "Don't waste another year." Like, what? It's so shamey. It's gross. I don't like it, and I don't like it because if my worth is wound so tightly around my output, I never feel satisfied. Like I never feel like I reach the goals that I set for myself. Like for a while, I wasn't setting goals because I was afraid of disappointing myself. And then my therapist asked me this week when I was talking to her about this specific thing, because I was like, girl, this is my thing, help me heal it. But when I told her that, she was like, I feel like a lot of the time, a sign of that is if the goalpost is always moving, that like you set the goal for yourself and then that's not enough. And so, like, then you have to like meet the next goal. But I was like, okay, but like for me, like I never reach the goal. Like for me, I never get to the goal because my goal is like so fucking far away. Like I think so long term, I think so gigantic that like I can't think short term, and nothing short term ever feels good enough for me, and then I'm never satisfied ever. And it's this funny thing because obviously like that long-term goal is for me to reach the best version of myself so that I can finally go, okay, now I'm living the life that I want to live instead of choosing to do that now. Like instead of saying like let me just feel good now by stop beating myself up so much and thinking that my life won't be good enough until I reach that goalpost, and being able to just like look at my life and be grateful for what's in it now and for what it looks like now so I can feel good in this moment but still be aimed in the direction of accomplishment. But accomplishment from the place of just doing things that I feel like doing, that I want to do, so that I can actually take aligned action because I'm just leaning into the things I want to do compared to being like, I got to do these things in order to cross this threshold and finally feel good. So, obviously, this is going to come with a lot of unlearning, and this is the very beginning of my journey of healing this. But I think some of the things that I'm going to have to unlearn are letting myself have seasons, if you will, that it's not going to be perfect every single time. For example, I am somebody that likes to work out. I know that there's going to be times that I fall off of going to the gym. I always know I come back. Like I've been working out for over a decade now. I always come back to it no matter what. So being able to give myself grace on that and not feel like I'm starting over, but it's just a continuation of my full long-term progress, I think is one of the first things to unlearn. I think I learned from my healing from grief journey that growth and healing are not linear. And just because you have days that you regress doesn't mean you're not healing. And if anything, those regression days are what teach you the most about yourself because it requires you to sit with yourself and feel your feelings and learn more about yourself and learn more about the situation, because when you're happy and you feel good and you're out in the world and you're doing things and you're following your routines and you're getting the shit done that you said you're going to get done, you're not like focused on the meaning and what's wrong and how to feel better, and even just like allowing yourself to feel through the feelings that are still stuck in your body. So I think that that still is true when you're not healing from grief and it's not something that's intense, that like I said, you guys, on Tuesday I had this like full nervous system shutdown day. And, obviously it wasn't fun, but being like really mindful during it and knowing that like in my brain I was like, I know I should be trying to make myself feel better, but I honestly I can admit that I don't want my to make myself feel better. Like for whatever reason I like want it to wallow. And just from that is like when I learned that I tie my worth to my achievement. So being able to appreciate those days for what they are, even though they don't feel good. Another big thing I would love to learn is valuing experiences, not just milestones, which is something that I really do value as experience. Like I had this big experience complex that I just like wanted to make sure that I was out in the world experiencing as much as possible. And so being able to zoom out and view my life through a full experience compared to just being like, I should be here or I should be doing this or once I get here, then I will. And that I think holds a lot more meaning and fulfillment for my long term overall life, because at the end of the day, like, that's my fear, is that I'm gonna be like this old lady in a home and look back at my life and be like, wow, I just wasted that shit, huh? But the only reason I'm gonna feel like I wasted it is if I spent so much time over analyzing everything instead of experiencing it. One big thing I really want to work on is separating my identity from my output, which is something that I can't even, like, I'm saying that to you guys. I don't even understand yet what that would look like, to not correlate what I'm doing with who I am, which is really what Monday's episode was about. That who you are at your core is not the roles that you've been given. That was more Wednesday's episode, but that who you are at your core are your values and your patterns and what fills you up and what drains you, and deeply knowing those things about you. And then through that deep knowing, then you can take aligned action that is more reflective of who you are. It's not the actions that come first. It's the who you are that has to come first in order to understand your identity. And just that your output and what you do and your identity are not the same thing. I think the overall thing, and it's obviously very Wellish, so it should be something that's like jammed into our heads already, but it's just not, because we've been operating opposite and in our culture constantly fed the opposite. But it's that we need to let things be messy. Like, we need to allow ourselves to not have it all figured out. We need it to be okay to just exist. We need it to be okay that we don't have everything that is in our imaginary life in our brain, and that doesn't mean that we aren't as great, that we aren't as in alignment with our best selves, like, that we can be the best version of ourselves today and not have this perfect life, this perfect output, this perfect image, this impressive, I'm proud of myself, I'm proud of my life kind of a vibe. That you can be proud of yourself and proud of your life and not have like all of the things checked off the list that you have going on in your imaginary world. I think a lot of this mentality comes from proving something, and your life doesn't need to be something to prove. You don't need to prove yourself or your life to anybody, including yourself, in order to prove that you're enough, in order to prove that you feel good, in order to prove that you're doing okay. And again, even if that proving it is just to you. I just feel that if I stopped achieving today, like I never achieved anything ever again, that I would still respect myself. And I think that it's funny because, like, even saying it out loud, I'm like, no, I wouldn't, because I would be a lazy piece of shit and like I wouldn't be accomplishing anything that I want to accomplish. But like, if I go back to that concept that who I am is not tied to my output, I would respect myself for being a kind person. I would respect myself for being an honest person. I would respect myself for wanting to experience the world. I would respect myself for being a good mom to my cats. I would respect myself for taking care of myself, taking care of my home, for being, you know, an active member of my family. I just think that there's so many things that aren't tied to achievement that we can be proud of ourselves for. And I want to start thinking about what I enjoy that doesn't make me quote unquote better, you know? Like, I went on a walk yesterday and I don't ever know what to do when I'm on these walks. Like, I want to listen to something, but I'm not much of an audiobook girly, because, you know, your girl's brain's moving too fast to process an audiobook. I just can't follow it. So I feel like I get like lost in my thoughts. But like, I can watch a YouTube video, but anything I ever pull up on YouTube is always self-improvement, because that's all I ever listen to. And I don't want to listen to that. You know, I wanted to listen to something fun that interested me. And I really was like, what interests me? You know, like I don't even know. So if you guys have any suggestions about fun things that I could listen to while I'm walking, leave them in the comments. But I guess just asking ourselves, like, who are we when we're not performing? Like, if you don't feel like you're going to be judged, or you don't feel like you have to show up a certain way, or you don't feel like, you know, you're performing, like you got to do certain things, that you could just exist, like, what would you be doing and who is that person? I think the point that I want to leave you and I on the most is that we're allowed to be proud of ourselves and our life, even if nothing impressive is happening. Okay, that's today's Confessions of a Wellish Girly. I hope you guys have a kick ass weekend and you enjoy every second of it, because you deserve it. Soak up all of the rest, soak up all of the fun, literally do whatever the fuck you want, even if it's not what you should do, as long as you are considering your long term well being. Gotta throw that in there. But, there's nothing wrong with a little instant gratification sometimes, so enjoy yourself. That's how you learn the most about you. Okay, I love you endlessly. I'll talk to you on Monday.